Oh no! Just when you thought it couldn't get any worse, we thought it was gonna get better. We thought this was gonna be the revival of their careers, but no! All the way down in Denver, Colorado, things are not looking good for some former Montreal Canadiens who have found themselves on that team. We're talking today about former Hab Jonathan Drouin, as well as former Hab Tomas Tatar. Two guys that were part of the Canadiens for quite a while. They both were technically on the Montreal Canadiens when the team went to the finals, but only one of them played. The other sat out the entire postseason run. But alas, these two guys have had very different careers since that finals run, and they both had their fair share of the Montreal spotlight when they were with the Habs. Tomas Tatar recently was with the New Jersey Devils, and he, as we had talked about in the video a few weeks ago, actually declined an opportunity to stay with. They ended up giving him a one-year deal, which he did not like. He tried to look for longer amounts of deals on the market, was not able to find it, and then by the time he accepted that he'd only be able to sign a one-year deal, the Devils had already traded for Tyler Toffoli, so RIP, Tomas Tatar in New Jersey, the dream is done. He had signed with the Colorado Avalanche on a $1.5 million deal. Jonathan Drouin, on the other hand, became a free agent after all of the tumultuous years of this guy being in Montreal. Not to say that he wasn't worth the $5.5 million AAV price tag at some point. I mean, 53 points in 81 games is going to get you a pretty good amount of money. But Drouin was just never able to live up to the hype in any capacity afterwards. And it's not like he had bad seasons. He had years like 21-22 where he had 20 points in 34 games played. Pretty alright point production metric. It's just all the expectations for a French guy in Quebec from the fans and from the media, it was a lot. And Jonathan Drouin was not healthy enough, firstly, but also equipped enough to satisfy those expectations. So when he became a free agent and he signed with the Colorado Avalanche on a one-year $800,000 deal, we all said, okay, hopefully the best happens for Drouin. Hopefully he's played on a line with Nathan MacKinnon, and we have ourselves a grand reunion of Halifax Mooseheads forwards who were so dominant in the QMJHL together and who are going to take their status into the NHL. And that was it. You know, like that was the thing that we thought was going to happen. Tomas Tatar went over to the Avalanche, so did Drouin, and we all thought that with these former Habs on the team, plus Artturi Lehkonen, there would be some sort of a revival here. However, things got bad a few days ago when you recognize how the Avalanche are running their lines, because in one of their recent games, they actually scratched both Drouin and Tatar. Here's the thing, if you wanted to talk about point production, well, this season, Tomas Tatar has 4 points in 8 games played. He's on pace for 41 points in only 81 games played because he missed a game. But Drouin, on the other hand, has not been anywhere near that successful. 1 point in 8 games played. He is on pace for 10 total points. Things have not looked good for Drouin. And one of the good things about this situation, I know it's tough to say good thing when the guy's only at 1 point in 8 games, but one of the good things about how he's at this metric is that a lot of y'all probably didn't hear about this. Like, if this was the case in Montreal, like Drouin had been a part of the past few years, anytime somebody goes through a slump, they're not scoring, their point production looks god-awful, we always hear about it. Right? Like the Juraj Slafkovsky thing in Montreal is so big right now. Everybody's talking about sending him down to the AHL, this and that. It's a big deal to see somebody who has a lot of expectations on them not score. And Drouin, for the better part of his entire tenure here, was in that category. So to see him take a more of a backseat contract with the Colorado Avalanche, get this opportunity to play with MacKinnon, and not show off too well in that sample, when he's getting scratched and he's got 1 point in 8 games, you rarely see that actually pop up in the news cycle. I mean, I know I'm doing that now by making this video, but Drouin getting scratched in Colorado does not seem like that big of a deal compared to Drouin getting scratched in Montreal. And furthermore, you had yourselves Jared Bednar going out there and defending the decision earlier this week. Here's the tweet made by Denver Avalanche. Jared Bednar elaborated on his decision to sit Tomas Tatar and Jonathan Drouin. I tried to assure them that it's more of an overall team view for me. I'm not super disappointed in their play. Both of those guys have been okay. We've talked about both. Drouin's a little snake bit, but he's creating some chances. Tatar has been good in stretches, not so good in others. A little bit of inconsistency there. Both guys are working hard. I love their attitudes. But Tufte and McDermott, they're a part of our team too. I have to take a big picture approach, and in order to do that, somebody's going to come out. Eventually, I need all these guys now to play, so if that means some guys get a rest here and there, I don't want them to take that as something that I'm down on. I believe in all those guys, and I think we'll get to where we want to be. I gotta keep everybody involved. When you see a guy like Tufte produce the way he's produced, if you're not going to call him up now, when are you going to call him up? You get 2 losses when you don't score, you make some changes. And this is also what we have come to know about these players too. Tomas Tatar was pretty streaky, not gonna lie. When he was with the Montreal Canadiens, there would be stints where he was hot, and a few other stints where he went a little bit softer and cooler. Meanwhile, you have Jonathan Drouin, who, I mean, look, when was the last time we heard that this guy was snake-bitten and not able to get any points despite making plays? That was a pretty common theme of analyses done whenever people would talk about Drouin over the past, let's say 5-6 years. It's been a pretty common thing here. So to see that type of pattern carry over to a Colorado Avalanche team, while it's not the most surprising thing in the world, it definitely is disappointing. I think a lot of us, myself included, were really buying on that hype. The Halifax Mooseheads hype of Nathan MacKinnon and Jonathan Drouin, 2 guys that dominated the QMJHL together in 2012-2013, reigniting their chemistry and reigniting their offense 10 years down the line. If you go to the Colorado Avalanche and you see where everybody is at, hey, Nathan MacKinnon is doing pretty okay. The guy has 9 points in 9 games played. He's fine. Even Arturi Lehkonen has 7 points in 9 games played. It's just, when it comes to the Kool-Aid that we were all drinking about that Drouin-MacKinnon reunion, I feel like we all kind of got duped, because it's not as good as we thought it would have been. Drouin has been snake-bitten, and I think it's just more disappointing than anything to see it happen this early into the season, where both Tatar and Drouin are getting scratched in games early on. I mean, I get what Jared Bednar is saying. If you look at the Colorado Avalanche and their record, I mean, they have had some dud losses in there. 4-0 loss to the Penguins last week, 4-0 loss to the Sabres earlier this week, and now, I mean, they won their game against St. Louis. Good for them. They've got the Vegas Golden Knights tomorrow on Saturday. That's going to be a pretty good matchup. But when things aren't going right, you got 2 games where nobody scores a goal, you have to make changes. And I guess the by default situation here labels Tatar and Drouin as the guys who are out. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you're a Colorado Avalanche fan, can you explain the thought process behind this entire ordeal? Does it make sense? Does Jared Bednar's overall analysis of the situation apply to what you feel about this hockey team? Are Drouin and Tatar the 2 guys who are most appropriate to be taken out in order to open up room for Tufte and McDermott? If you're a Montreal Canadiens fan watching this video, what are your thoughts on Tomas Tatar and Drouin getting scratched this early into the year, citing issues like consistency with Tatar and snake-bittenness from Drouin? Are these new ideas that you haven't heard before? And I think the answer to that, if most Canadiens fans are going to be watching to the end here, is probably not, because I feel like a lot of these patterns were there when they were Canadiens, but of course, if other Canadiens fans disagree, then that is your prerogative to go out there and let me know your thoughts instead in the comments section. So, thoughts in the comments about this Drouin-Tatar scratching situation in Colorado. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.